So there's a few little tweaks that we can do now that we have the general idea here set up. One is because it can only do the pressure and some other various things with how the sparse solver works, there are some little issues with the simulation. Nothing too crazy, but one is this advection reflection. If you look at the little tooltip text, it says attempts to inject energy lost due to pressure projection. It's a nice little thing you can turn on and just feel good about yourself. You don't need to even know what it does, but it is helping. It's actually just trying to, whenever you do fluid sims in general, you're always kind of losing information and velocity between the voxels when things get pushed around. It starts to lose and smear and blur some of the information. This tries to compensate for that a little bit. So just turn that on and again, give yourself a pat in the back. If you're feeling especially cool, do double project. I like single project because I don't know what the difference is. So there you go. Single projection's cool. Another thing we might want to talk about is the actual bounds of the sim. I mean, it is automatically doing this, but because we're just letting it do it, it could get out of control. Like if it just kept going, like super high into the air. It doesn't really seem like it does. Like we can pretty much see the extents of this. But if you don't know, if you're just running some sim based off of, some wild particle sim that you don't know what it's going to do, you can enforce boundaries. That is on here, on the actual smoke object itself. Center and max size. So what I like to do here is say, let's make a box. Let's draw it out here and say simdims, and we're just going to make a box essentially that roughly conforms to our view here. So something like, I'll go into wireframe mode here. So something like that, and then, we'll want it to be, big here too. I don't know. Once again, I'll just clean this up. We'll center it on the X, because why not? The Y might as well just be half of this all the time. So copy the size Y, paste it here, multiply that times 0.5. So now, if I want to make this bigger and smaller here, it will be fine. I'm just going to make this be like, I don't know, is 18 good? Let's just try it. And then this is probably way too deep. Because it's a pretty thin sim as we saw. I'll make it 16. So there you go. We don't want the smoke to reach the top and then hit a wall and then get deleted after that, which is what the sim will do if we're not careful. So we don't want this to be, too low. Like you can't do this where we're like, oh, but this boundary is at the top of the screen. Well, sure, but the smoke is in the middle of this box. It's going to hit the ceiling here. So we can't do that. So let's just go make it high enough, maybe even 19 just to make sure. So there you go. Now we're absolutely sure that we'll never see it hit the ceiling. So there you go. So copy parameter on the size. Jump back into, or I guess we were already there, come back into the sim here and say, turn on max size, paste those values, go back. This could be the kind of thing would benefit from having the 2 columns of parameter network view stuff that I do sometimes in these lessons. Well, I don't think it'll be too necessary in this lesson. And paste the center. So again, we don't see that box here, but it knows. So now when we run the sim, the same thing will happen. I'll press W again to go back out of wireframe. It will is stopped up here. So it'll force, if there is simulation happening up here that we don't want to happen. I mean, hey, we could have just had particles that just shoot straight up out of the viewport, and that's exactly what we wanted to do. We only want to see it where it is in view, but we might have particles just shoot quickly up like crazy out of the viewport. And we don't want it to sim up there. So there's still a very good reason to have a maximum size. Okay, and the last thing we want to do is the easiest thing. Literally, remember this, voxel size. So just copy parameter, jump out here, and let's have our voxel size here be in terms of that. There you go. So now we're all set up, ready to go. Huzzah!